Alright guys, so this video is intentionally left blank because, why not? It's another video, and if you remember one from last year, I had, excuse me, I had a video from last year that was, I believe, 2013 in the channel, and in that video I had talked about BronyCon, and that's going to be the subject of this video, or lack thereof video, whatever this would be. I guess it would be like a little, voice chat thing. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. I'm assuming it's Concrud, if you guys know what that is. I'm assuming if you've been to a convention, you should know what that is. And if it's your first time at a convention, which was like me last year, then you're gonna quickly learn what it is at some point during your convention-going life. Anyway, I don't really have a script for this one, like I did my other one. I was gonna kind of wing it, because everything's still kind of fresh in my mind, because I was pretty much just there. I believe it's the 5th today, and yeah. So I'm going to kind of get through my entire spiel about it, and it'll be just another BronyCon video. Why not? I have things to say about it. Nothing bad, of course, and really that's pretty much it. So anyway, I was set up thanks to one of my friends, who unfortunately could not make it this year. He wanted to go really bad, but he could not get off of work, and because of this, he felt kind of bad that I couldn't go, and tried to set me up with one of his friends, who was going to room with us anyway, and his friend invited some other friends, and was the ride for said friends. So we were going to have 4 people at the hotel this year, and, well, things didn't quite work out. We're all in the same state, but the guy I was going to meet, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Pardon me. It didn't quite work out because, we're all living in the same state, but he's halfway across the state, and if I wanted a ride, I would need to train all the way out to where he is, which was about 7 hours in train time, as opposed to the 2.5 hours of train time down to Baltimore. So I made the risk of finding some crazy train route, not really crazy at all, but finding a train route and just hopping out to Baltimore that way. I let him know that. And a day and a half before the convention, he texts me and he says he has some really bad and unexpected news. So at this point, I am ready for an emotional hit, because if you remember last year, I said that if I couldn't go to BronyCon, I was probably going to cry myself to sleep, and I find that to be quite true still. So he texts me about that, and he says that he came down with pneumonia, and he has no way of getting to the convention like that in his current state, and that the 2 people that would come with him cannot come as well because he is their ride. So yeah. At that point, I'm feeling kind of down, and I'm like scrambling around, trying to figure out what my purpose in life is. And excuse me once again, pardon me again, had to blow my nose. Lots of mucus flying out. It's not particularly fun, but I mean, in the light of previous events, it could be worse, I guess, or something like that. But so at this point, I'm having a mini freak out, kept internally inside me, of course. I'm not the kind of person who spazzes out unless I have direct pressure put on me by somebody. But if I can contain it to myself, then I do that. So I'm kind of like cycling around my usual Firefox tabs from Facebook to YouTube to Tumblr. I'm just going around like, what do I do with thing? Now, at some point, I said to myself, I've already sunk a bunch of money into this. I'm not letting this go. And this is the part where I made a decision that, that I would go by myself. There was nothing that was going to stop me. I was invested in this already, and I'm not pulling out now. There's nothing I can do about it. There was no choice. So I managed to snag a room at the Sheraton. Of course, my wallet took a quite hefty hit, but I did not want to miss this for the world. There was nothing stopping me from seeing it, from going to BronyCon. So I snagged a room at the Sheraton by myself, unfortunately, and, well, it all begins here. The night before the convention, I had marathon the entirety of season 4, minus, I think, 2 episodes, because I was not invested in those episodes. No, not gonna happen. So I skipped 2 episodes, I don't really care. I rewatched them just this morning, so, you know. But I marathoned the entirety of the season in one sitting. Quite seriously, one sitting, because I didn't even get it for dinner or anything like that. I just kind of like sat through it all. And I was more than hype for the convention. And excuse me again, my nose is just not being nice. Excuse me once again. So I streamed, not really streamed, but I marathoned the entirety of season 4 in one go, and then came the night I needed to sleep. Like last year, I was incredibly hype. There was no way I was gonna get to sleep. But thankfully, I passed out at some point around, I think, like 11 o'clock. I needed to wake up at 4 o'clock to catch my, caught my train. So, I wake up at 4 o'clock, and just, of course, like last year, I had the energy of about 20,000 supernovas going off at once, yeah. It felt like I had slept for about 20 years. I was ready to just, like, bounce off walls and everything. But of course, just like any other trip that I have that ends up on the highway at some point, you cannot have a trip with me unless there is, and this is becoming a poop thing, you cannot have a trip with me without diarrhea. Then you know it's a real trip. It's a legit trip when I have, or someone with me has diarrhea on the way to the place I need to be. So, it happened. You know, that's how it works with me. You always gotta have diarrhea at some point in a trip, on the way there. It's a thing. It's become so, like, inherent to me that it's a thing. It's hilarious. It's the stupidest thing ever, but yeah. So I have that whole thing going on. And then I get to the train station. My train arrives as soon as I get to the station. So, I'm kind of, like, slowly booking it. And I managed to catch my train, hop on, and from there, it becomes quite a lonely trip, but not entirely lonely. I sat with a few people on the train in the morning time. This is the, like, business rush hour, so it's a bunch of people in, like, business suits and suitcases and, you know, oh god, a bunch of businessmen, basically. I'm going with a bunch of suits from Langley. But consider me surprised. I expected my trip to be incredibly cold and, you know, not too talkative, but actually it proved to be the opposite. I spoke with quite a few people on the train, and it really surprised me how nice people were in the city. I had to branch down to Philly, so I'm riding a train on to Philly, and I'm like waiting for the usual city treatment. Sorry, Philly, but sometimes you're not exactly most accommodating. But people on the train were pretty nice. I mean, I had a conversation with one dude, and he also told me that what stop I was getting off at, and, you know, it's like, thanks, I'm a random person, but you're being cool with me, it's awesome, thanks. So, I had fun on that train, and the second train I was branching onto was the Amtrak train in the 30th Street Station in Philly. So, I hop on that, and before I hopped on that, I was hyped. I couldn't. Once I got into the Amtrak station and got into the main hall, I was like, oh god, this hall is absolutely huge. I need to go find someone to help me. Oh my god. And I walk up to the person at the front counter, and I apparently just had, like, diarrhea of the mouth. And I had no idea what I was saying, but I knew I was saying, do you have a train platform yet for the 111 Northeast Regional? And I said it so fast that she was like, what did you just say? You're talking a mile a minute. And I had to, like, I just had to unscramble myself from there. But I hop on that train, and while I'm on the platform, someone notices the shirt I'm wearing. It was my Twitch Plays Pokemon shirt by Frickerdoodle, if you've ever seen that. I'll leave a link in it in the description if anyone wants to snag it or look at it. But it's the stained glass picture of the pretty much the first few days of Twitch Plays Pokemon. So, you know, someone sees it, and it's actually two guys. They're incredibly tall. Like, I felt like a midget next to them, and I'm about 6 foot. So if someone out heights me, they're above average height, and that's kind of scary for me because it's really weird. But they see it and they talk about it for a bit, and then we get on the train. I ended up sitting next to them, and the train was incredibly empty for a train. But then again, it's a morning train. It's also flying. It's not flying. Wow. It's coming all the way out from Boston, heading to Washington. And excuse me again. Oh my god. My nose is just going absolutely wild right now. Oh, sheesh. But we're on the train, and it's kind of empty, but it's a morning train, and I don't really think much of it. So I get my own seat, and like the entire car is empty for like minus a few people being in there. You know, it's pretty chill in there. So I'm sitting around, and I pull out my 3DS and blah, sitting on the train, and then suddenly I start hearing TF2 talk. And I just kind of like tilt my head toward the direction I'm hearing it, and it's the guys next to me. They're talking about TF2, so I managed to sort of like wiggle my way into their conversations and let them know, like, hey, I play TF2 obsessively. I have no life. I love hats. And I had more hours with them, so I can flex my hour muscles. Yeah. So we start talking to each other, and from there, it's kind of like this thing. I expected to be completely alone, but once again, I have managed to somehow snag people along the way. It's not something I like to do, but I end up doing anyway, and end up liking anyway, even though I don't like to do it. It's kind of a weird thing that I have. I don't know why. But we pull into the Baltimore station, Penn Station, and I just kind of gravitate towards these guys as they leave the train, and I just sort of just blend in with their group, with the two of them. I ended up following them for quite a bit of time, and it worked out because we didn't have a plan once we got into Baltimore, and neither did I. And I was going to take a walk around Baltimore for a short time around the light rail and the bus station, but it turns out that we found a place, or a guy, that told us there was a free bus route down to not Penn Station, we're saying Pratt Street, so it all worked out. So I ended up grouping these guys on the bus and all the way down to the con center, and we kind of talked for a bit while we were registering. And might I say that BronyCon's register lines drive me insane, because they have the winding queue lines, and it was mostly empty. So we had to walk through, like, I want to say about 4 minutes worth of walking around. Hang on again, sorry. Okay, let's go on. Where was I? I don't even know. Oh, right, registration lines, yeah. So we're winding around that line for a good 4 minutes, and I'm carrying my laptop, my clothes, and I came prepared. I sort of packed as light as I could, but I knew I would not be able to drop my stuff until 3 o'clock p.m. at check-in time, and I was prepared to deal with that. I knew what I was getting myself into. I can speak the English. So, of course, a trip, you need to be prepared. If you have no way to store your stuff, make sure you pack as light as possible. Yada, 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 essentials, that's all you need. Don't pack more than you need, blah, 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 usual stuff. So I came prepared, and I knew what I was going to be getting into, so I have, like, the cool guy stuff to say. But I sort of hung around them until the opening ceremonies, after which we decided to go our separate ways, and they said they were going to have me on Steam, but unfortunately they haven't. So it's kind of a bittersweet thing. I was looking forward to it, but I have no Steam invites right now. I'm looking at my friends list, but there's nothing. But that's cool. You know, it's all about meeting people. So after the opening ceremonies, we decided to take our separate routes, and I see them a couple times throughout the convention and just say, hey, I know those guys, like an idiot, because I'm cool like that. But from there, I head directly to the vendors hall because my wallet has not taken enough emotional damage. And I meet up with a few artists that I wanted to meet up with. And I do the usual, like, fanboy thing and just kind of gush at them. I did buy a print from somebody, but not from anybody else. I also did meet up with a few people that I bought things from last year that were particularly pricey. But, you know, that's kind of how it goes. So I wander on the vendor hall for a couple hours. Yes, a couple hours. Because I looked at the panels and there's nothing I really wanted to do. Essentially, I was just going to kick around the first day, and once 3 o'clock rolled around, I would possibly just sit around in my hotel and do absolutely nothing. Because I didn't have anything to do. There were no panels I wanted to see in the first day. There was nothing to really do. So, I know, being by myself, I can do, you know, whatever I want to do. It's just... It's me. It's me. I'm sorry, that line gets me every time. But that's another story. So after the vendor halls, I decided to wander around for a little bit, and I take a seat and just kind of mess around. You know, the first day was me lazing around. Pulled out my 3DS. You know, battled a few people in Pokemon. Nothing really major happened on the first day, I don't believe. At 3 o'clock, I went to go blow my nose, excuse me. So when 3 o'clock rolls around, I go to check in my hotel, and I'm freaking out because if my hotel is not checked in, well, like, if not a thing, then I would need to immediately leave Baltimore and just be done with the trip entirely. But luckily, I booked it right, and yeah. So I go up to my room. My room was the room on the very end of the hall, off in its own little, like, corner next to the fire escape. And it was all dark and spooky and all that nonsense, but the room itself was pretty cool. It had a nice king-size bed, it had TV, HD TV, giant screen thing, yeah. It had TV, didn't have a fridge, unfortunately, but, you know, fridges are kind of bad because, you know, they have, like, alcohol and stuff, and they have... The big thing is that they cost money. Or like anything in there, and that's not good. But I get in my hotel room at about 3 o'clock, and I set my laptop up, and from there I just sort of zoned out. First day was, you know, I chilled with a bunch of people in the convention center for the first few hours, and okay, I'm content with that. It's cool. I bought a lot of stuff. Sort of, not really. I'll explain this later. But you know, whatever. I forget if I ate anything during the entirety of that time. Did I even eat anything on the first day? I'm not sure that I did. I'm trying to think right now, but I don't recall eating anything on the first day. Wow, I didn't eat anything on the first day. Holy crap. So, second day rolls around, and, well, it's kind of more of the same, really. I just sort of, you know... I wanted to see panels, but at the same time, I didn't. There wasn't much to do. There were things to do, but there wasn't stuff that I wanted to do. It was sort of like a purgatory this year for me. But, you know, I still made stuff out of it. I lazed around the convention center, just hopping from chair to chair, area to area, and just talking with people. That's what I wanted to do this year. I had my 3DS out, and I managed to street pass like a bunch of people. You know, that's always fun because, you know, I'm a small town guy. I'm like the country kid in the city. And I spot passed a bunch of people. I was excited about that. Battled people again. And I was just talking to people. That's all I wanted to do. I tried to get into one of the tournaments for the arcade, but I don't know when the Marvel tournament was. I didn't feel like asking anybody. I didn't want to like bothering people, and, you know, I was probably gonna get bodied anyway. But let me tell you guys, Firebrand, Ron, and Wesker, it's a pro team, except Wesker kind of scrub friendly, but, you know, whatevs. My dog is licking my pillow. Why is she doing that? Little bear, stop. Bear! Thank you. So, second day, I'm just kind of sitting around doing nothing. I'm just glad to have my backpack off, because my backpack was killing me earlier. Because it was so heavy and it was kind of muggy outside. I could barely go outside without dying, because I swear to you guys, my lungs collapse again or something, I don't know. But when I go to walk around, I get out of breath pretty fast, and I'm not out of shape, I don't know. But I can't quite really do anything about it, because I don't want to go to the hospital and have a situation again where I'm pretty much being the guy who cries wolf and there's no wolf. Because that was a cool thing that happened last time, but just leaving that aside, second day, not much happens. I'm talking to people I don't go to a single panel on the second day. I didn't go to a single panel in the actual convention itself. I just sat around and talked with everybody that I could. And then at some point, I went back to my hotel room and stalked the Twitter of one of the artists that was there. And once I saw that he was in an area, I booked it out of the hotel, and I went and screamed at him. And did the usual fanboy thing, and screamed and screamed and screamed, and yeah, that was pretty much the entirety of my second day. I enjoyed it quite a bit. But I also paid an arm and a leg for food, because I'm a tourist, and tourists pay about $100 per ounce of Coca-Cola. It hurts quite a bit, but it's what we do. Something that they brought up this year that they didn't have last year was the color-coded badges, which was green, yellow, and red, where each color would pretty much tell you how someone was feeling toward conversation. I had mine on green the entire time, so people were talking to me, which is awesome. But second day went by without much event. And, you know, there was something going on that I couldn't put my finger on, that it just didn't feel right. I was doing things and seeing people that were doing them, like doing cool things, and I was talking to people and having a good time, but there was just something that didn't feel right. I didn't know quite what it was until about the third day. So, third day rolls around. I missed the Appaloosa Hold'em tournament, which is Texas Hold'em, so I wanted to do that, but I kind of maybe fell asleep early because it was at like 8 p.m. and I had blown out my like vocal cords the entire day, and I was tired, so I went to the hotel room, and I may have slept from like 8 o'clock to I think around 9, and then from 9 I just sort of was this useless lump of I'll just sit around until 12 p.m. to check out time for the hotel room. So I was a lazy punk and just sat around in my room watching YouTube videos until about 11:30, and then I walked out of the hotel into the convention center, and then at like 11:45, I was like, holy shit, I didn't check out, and I booked it all the way back to the hotel room, like backpack and my other bag on, and checked out, thank God. That would have cost me another $300 if I didn't check out. Oh my god. But yeah. Now, sorry about that bag that I had on. I had my backpack, but my backpack was full of stuff, and I got incredibly lucky because at the Venture Hall on the second day, there was a little girl who, as I walked by her, she stopped me and asked if I wanted a bag. And she held up one of the giant We Love Find bags. I was looking for them, but I couldn't find them. I didn't know how to get them. So I got an incredible stroke of luck there. And I asked her if she was sure that she wanted to give this bag away. And she said, yeah, sure. You look like you're carrying a lot of stuff. And I'm like, oh, well, wow, thanks. So I took the bag and I, like, threw the entirety of my life thanks upon her. And just kind of threw my stuff in there. So from there, I'm carrying this, like, bag full of crap around my shoulder, which was just like last year, where I'm carrying about 900 pounds of stuff because I've become Superman and I can carry about 900 pounds of stuff because I'm so hyped up on, like, hype. So I carried that around the entirety of the final day. And the last day, of course, I did not go to a single panel. I once again just sat around and talked to people. It's all I wanted to do. I wanted to talk to people this time because last year I was like the center of attention in terms of public opinion. Okay, maybe not that special, but people were talking to me the entire time, and I didn't really have time to talk to people. I was walking around to panels all the time with my friends, which is in itself fine, but this year, since I was by myself, I could talk to people and, just chillax. So that's what I did. And I once again went to the vendor hall, and I found a rainicorn hat. So that was like an impromptu, super impromptu buy that almost cut me off from getting home, but I made sure I had enough money. I needed $12 to get home on the train, so I made sure of that. But I was cutting it pretty close with that hat. So that was an impromptu buy. Since it's the last day, I suppose I should cover what I bought. I channeled my inner TF2, and I bought a crap ton of hats and scarves. Well, not really a crap ton, but I bought a Celestia hat and a Cadence and Celestia hat on the first day. And then I bought a Luna and Cadence scarf. I didn't buy a Celestia scarf because I couldn't have one in time. And then I bought a blanket, a mouse pad, and 2 prints. So I bought more than I did last year because last year I made a really rookie mistake. But we'll ignore that because I still love what I bought. But for the last day, I knew this would be my last day. But something, of course, still did not seem right. It was the final day, but it didn't feel like it. I thankfully managed to dodge the closing ceremonies because I needed to get to my train station before then. So I skedaddled out of there around maybe 1 p.m. And I just sat around the train station for about 2 hours. Thankfully, I met up with a few people that were going on the same train, and we sat around the station for a while and talked to each other. And it was at this point that I finally realized what I was, missing. It was kind of weird, but last year I went with my friend. And this year I didn't have anybody to really pal around with. I was with random people, which is, of course, in itself fine, but it doesn't feel the same. It was it was a lonely experience, but at the same time it wasn't. It's really hard to explain and put it into words. I just don't quite know. It's weird. Because I had a blast being there, but at the same time, it just didn't feel like it was last year because I didn't have my friend with me. Which makes me kind of sad, but, that's kind of how life goes sometimes. You can't really stop it. Life is gonna just shove its thing up your thing and do terrible things to you, but you gotta go with it sometimes. You may have some things you can do against it occasionally, but sometimes you just gotta roll with it, which is what I usually do with a lot of things. I'm sort of like the water guy usually. I just kind of do whatever and, flow whatever. Just go places. Don't have a care in the world. So at that point I realized what I was missing, and it felt sort of bittersweet, an ending like that. But unfortunately, that little bittersweet moment got kind of cut short because when we got on the train was like packed beyond belief, and I didn't expect that. I was hoping to talk with this kid that I met and his mom at the station, as well as another girl who was going to the same station as me. But unfortunately, we got separated on the train because we had to go find seats. And she sort of just kind of stuck herself in the back of the train and said, "Good luck." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I guess I'll catch you later then." So we left her behind, the kid and his mom. We went foraying 6 cars into the train to find 3 seats. I'm leading the charge of a line of people to find seats. It was not fun because the train was shaking and rolling everywhere, but I got my sea legs, even though it's not on the sea, but it's pretty much like a boat. So I'm kind of leading the charge of a bunch of people to go find seats. It was pretty fun. Not really. I also got a call during that too, which was god awful. Excuse me once again. Thank you for pardoning me. So the train ride was, once again, Last year I had an entire like mental collapse coming home. But this year I didn't have that. I mean, I was prepared for it, but at the same time it wasn't the same as last year. There was something was missing. But so as we pull into the station where I'm getting off, I sort of have this like really sad moment where I wave goodbye to this kid and his mom, because we tried to talk to each other on the train but couldn't quite because we were a couple seats away. I didn't want to bother people. So we had just met, and we were brought together by BronyCon, and now BronyCon is over. So we're kind of going in separate ways, and it's sort of it's one of those cool experiences in life that you get to feel. You meet people, and then they're gone. They might be back next year. You don't know when you'll see them again, but you hope you'll see them again because you're friends now. There's not much else to it. You're friends now, so you hope you see them next year, but you also don't want to leave them, but you have to. It's an experience if you haven't experienced it before. I hope you have, because as bad as it sounds, I hope you've experienced the loss of impromptu friends, not long-term friends. You don't want to lose long-term friends. That's not cool. But like I said, life happens sometimes, and you got to go with it, unfortunately. But I'm sitting there. The kid, I swear he was gonna like burst into tears, but I was feeling the same, so I can't blame him. But I waved at him. He waves at me, and I booked my way off the train. And I met with the girl again in the station, but unfortunately she kind of wandered off. She's a Philly girl. She does what she wants. I'm not stopping her. So I kind of lost track of her, but that's fine because she's a city girl. She knows what she's doing. But from there, I'm once again on my own. And when I'm heading home, I know it's a couple minutes of, like an hour-long train ride, I'm just sort of chilling, and I get home. So here I am, about 2 days later. I'm starting to feel the effects of Concorde, I think. My nose is all clogged up, my throat's a little bit sore, but I think it's just my allergies. So I don't know if it's my allergies or not, or if I'm really coming down with something, but hey, that's how life goes, But yeah, that's my BronyCon experience. It's not scripted out or anything, so I may have missed a few things, but I think I touched on the things that I wanted to touch on. The main thing is that, I had fun with it. Even though I didn't have my friend with me, I really had fun with it. It was something different. And the fact that I found people on the train that were, able to restore my faith in humanity because they weren't completely, cold and dead people, that made it even better because, it's fun to talk with people that you don't normally talk to. It's something different. It's it's a thing. I can't put it into words right now. I'm kind of I'm at the end of my rant, and things are just kind of falling apart in my brain, and my brain's going, "Hey, you got work in an hour. Good luck with that." But yeah, that's my BronyCon experience this year, as compared to last year. If you watched that, so yeah. Ugh. But anyway, I'll be seeing you guys in whatever video I put up next. I know I just put up that Payday 2 video. I got a TF2 video coming out as well of just general stupidity. So you'll get to see me in that and be dumb and do stupid things. So I'll be seeing you guys next year. And next year I will probably be doing the same thing and being a general nerd about BronyCon again because it's something that I love. I went last year, I went this year, and if I can't go next year, I'm gonna cry myself to sleep, just like I said last year. But hopefully, I'll be going with friends next year, because this year, it gave me a little bit of a heartache, but I managed to pull it off anyway, so, yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and if you ever go to BronyCon, try and bring some friends. You may realize who your true friends are and who people aren't friends are, and okay, actually, no, that was a bad line, never mind. Just be sure you know who you're bringing. Like I said last year, because if you don't know who you're bringing, bad things can happen. You don't want bad things to happen. When bad things happen, you get the sads, and when the sads happen, you're not a happy person because you're sad. Don't be sad. Being sad is bad. Just be a happy person. Bring your best friends. Chillax. Have fun. You know, all that stuff. So, see you next year, guys.